I see a Budweiser. Go ahead and hold it up.
Yes.
That was the biggest clue.
Yes, right
Doing
there.
it for Dale.
Man, it's so many gimmicks, right? I feel like they're making it a lot more complicated than it needs to be. I mean, a lot of people, you get polarizing opinions on DRS.
I know you guys know exactly what I'm talking about here, but sometimes the effort, it's all about the boys. You know, like, hey, you know, life sucks sometimes, and we need the boys.
iRacing kind of always has a tendency to kind of buff
Yes.
the new cars just a little bit. I'm not going to go on record saying it's because they want people to spend money on their platform and buy all the new content.
Confirmed.
But
Yes.
but
Turn one is going to be interesting. Let's see if everybody gets through it. Looks like there's a little bit of a bump there, but everybody's getting through it okay. Now into turn two, turn three. We're 3 wide right in front of them. Oh, we got cars everywhere.
Big trouble. Kingsbury, you need to work on closing this gap and then maybe play the patience game. Make sure your tires are nice and cool. Don't overuse them. And to stay there in a good position as we see a pass for the lead. Hutcherson making the big move into turn one, Young Wall.
Like Kingsbury's trying to go around the out or the inside, but it turns into the outside, and there's contact. Marwan did not leave him any room.
Yeah,
oh no!
You get together.
Oh no!
Where he should be.
So what happened there, Mike? What did he do? Did he suck his tire off?
I'm gonna go mute now. Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to Slow Motion Broadcasting here at virtual Detroit City, the amazing streets of the Belle circuit. I am Mike Braun, and production booth tonight is Adam Thompson, and joining me tonight in commentary is Randall McGrew. Randall, as we were talking earlier, this is probably one of our favorite tracks between the two of us. What do you think is going to come out of these guys tonight here on this amazing track?
My prediction for tonight, pain. There is going to be some pain. You thought last week was tight confines. You ain't seen nothing yet. This is going to be a tight race.
Yeah, I have to agree with you too. This is like, you know, Bathurst is tight for about half the track, and then the other half is pretty wide open, where this is just tight. It's got walls all around you, all the way around. And man, yeah, I have to fully agree with you that this is going to be a tight one. As we're jumping on board right now with Anthony Flores. Anthony's been really laying down some laps the last few weeks in that amateur class. A couple weeks ago, he was leading the whole event for a while. Randall, I think you missed that one on us, but he's been showing the way around. But why don't you jump on board with Anthony and give us a little lap around the amazing track of Belle Isle?
We go around a lap with the shipping department. The UPS man himself, as he goes through turn 1, going to sacrifice a bit of speed between the corners to make sure he gets a good run in a late apex off turn 2. Avoid that big bump on the outside that can cause you a lot of oversteer and make your Ferrari look like a Corvette. He flies down the straightaway towards turn 2. You're going to clip the inside curb just a little bit here. He just barely kisses it, run all the way out to the exit curb and keep it over to the left, and then another right-hander where you're just going to get close to that curb. He runs a little bit wide. We watch these Ferraris deal with a bit of understeer at this track, and now some oversteer as he cooks the tires just a little bit on the previous corner, and now he's going to be hurting, and we're going to see that a lot tonight.
That's the good old commentator curse, talking about a little bit of understeer and develop oversteer real quick. So great job on that, Randall, for murdering our friend Mr. Flores. But one of the other things you kind of see here as we're on board with Kingsbury right now is, coming out of turns and slapping that wall. That can definitely hurt your qualifying, can it, Randall?
Yeah, you pick up any contact with the wall that'll invalidate your lap, and you also run the risk of putting damage on the car, which will slow down your straight line speed. Straight line speed, while there's a lot of straights here, not really as big of a deal. Having a good slipstream helps, but the way your car handles these corners, and if you can take some of these curbs the way that we saw Kingsbury do right there, some of the curbs you can hit pretty heavy, like this one in particular. If you're confident your car can really run that curb, this one as well, as we're going to see Kingsbury also abandoned in true slow motion broadcasting fashion. We can't seem to get an onboard lap. We're going to jump back to Kevin Fanning in the Ford Mustang, the fastest of the Mustangs. You'd think they'd be at home here. They've also been struggling.
Yeah, it's a big old monster of these Mustangs, and not, like you said, not quite enough straightaway for these things to really pull away. But Kevin Fanning sitting P4 right now in that 911 Mustang, coming into turn 3 there, and doing a good job with it. I mean, we were talking in pre-production about how Kevin's able to muscle literally this big old muscle car around some of these smaller tracks like this.
Yeah, and what you really need to do is just basically park it on the apexes and get that wheel straight as early as possible and mash the throttle. I've been watching a few onboard laps with Kevin and with Matt Kingsbury, both in the Mustangs, and I've been watching, they've been steering a lot more with their feet than with their hands. You see he's going to barely kiss this apex, and he's trying to get that wheel straight as soon as possible, then apply some progressive throttle, and that's what really gets them around the corner exit once they got into that apex. And you see now that he's kind of mired here behind the Coral Corvette of John Ebersole. So this is one of the downfalls of that open quali format, is you can find yourself in traffic, and in a place like Belle Isle, it seems like you never have clean track.
Yeah, no, definitely. As we're watching Kevin come around the last set of turns right here, down through turn 14 now and across the start-finish line. See if he can improve his time, and does not look like he did. He's still sitting on his 128.5. So still a 128.8 is still a good lap from him. But as we're kind of winding down on our times here, only about 2 seconds. There we go. That will conclude our qualifying. But definitely, yeah, but Belle Isle is definitely a tough track for open quali. But as we come up on our qualifying grid, we'll go through the grid here. On the pole in that Ferrari is Devin Hovarth with Ray Kingsbury with the Porsche right next to him. Cody Crossgrove is going to be in that 3rd spot. And then we talk about Mr. Fanning, Kevin Fanning in the first Mustang. Right behind him will be Matt Kingsbury in another Mustang. Elias Roman in the 6th spot. Justin Nasir in 7th. Paul Mikulicek in the 8th spot. 9th spot's going to go to Brandon Lambert, and rounding out the top 10 is Blake Reynolds.
Steve Baker is going to start P11 alongside Roman Ratoa in the number 23 car. P13 is the amateur pole sitter of the shipping department of SimCAR, Anthony Flores in the number 7 Ferrari. Next to him, Casey O'Brien. Starting behind them in P15, Murphy Nichols, and 16th will be Brian Sohn. 17th will see the likes of Ryan O'Connor, with 18th being Josh Soltz. And then rounding out the top 20 will be Jeff Johnson and Kevin Bogart.
And in the 21st spot, it looks like Marwin Mafta in the 199. John Ebersol in the 22nd spot. Alex Hillman, 23rd. Jason Lynn in the 24th spot. 25th is going to go to Tim Brokaw. The second week I've done that. And Brian Zabalski in 26th. And Joshua Suchi in the 27th spot. So 27 cars gridding up for this race around Detroit. The track temp is going to be a little spicy today. We were talking about that as well earlier. It might lead to some little bit of chaos. We were talking about like turn 1 and turn 2 is one where you carry a lot of speed. How do you think this first start's going to be on the short parade lap here, Randall?
They're not going to have much time to condition their tires, so you're going to try to get any temperature you can in it very quickly. But 27 cars on this grid going for the first couple laps, it's going to feel like 100. You're going to feel like you're in bumper to bumper traffic, especially getting through those first couple corners. It'll be really interesting to see how this all shakes out.
So these guys coming around the last set of turns here, coming into what looks to be the fountain area and coming into turns 11. Nice short parade lap for these guys. But like you said, 27 cars. It is definitely going to add some spice to this. And turns 1 and 2 is definitely a challenge with side-by-side cars. So we'll have to see how these guys come through as we're coming around turns 12 and 13 right now. And coming up towards that pit-in area, the iRacing safety pace car jumps in. These guys are kind of inching around, and Devin Hovarth is going to lead the field down the front straightaway and take off. And we have green flag coming down the front straightaway now. Devin Hovarth gets out in a little bit of a lead. Down in Ray Kingsbury just behind him, and Cody Cosgrove right behind him. And they come through turn 2 now. Good clean start so far. Not too much of chaos. A couple guys get tapped together, but as you see, Kevin Fanning and Elias Roman going at it. Elias going on the inside, coming down into turn 3 and gets the spot, Randall. Good start from him, jumping up into the 4th spot already.
And Kevin Fanning struggling a little bit there on the start, down a couple spots, but plenty of time to get those spots back. And also, if he finishes in 6th, he'll have a really good starting position for the feature race where we invert the top 8. So he may not be too punchy to get back around. Might take his licks here in the heat race and then get a better start in the feature.
Oh, absolutely. That is a great call out. We talk about that every week as this 15-minute heat race we come through, and the top 8 will invert for our 45-minute final. And we see a lot of guys actually hanging out in that 8th spot, 7th and 8th spot, really wanting to hold and preserve that spot so they can get up top and be on the pole as we're riding with Justin Nasir right now, sitting in that 7th spot, and Mikolajczyk right behind him. But you see a whole pack of cars just rolling nose to tail right now. Is that one solo BMW out there? Paul repping the Beamer right now. Everybody else seems to be going with a Porsche or Ferrari this week. And we were talking about it earlier as well. Oh, as we see one, I can see one spinning around. See someone coming off the timing screen. I have to see if we can see who that is. Looks like it's coming around the fountain turn here, Randall.
Alex Hillman looks like he got there on the inside, trying to make a move, and coming up to turn 12, maybe gets the braking point wrong here and runs wide. No, he just gets too much of the curb on the inside, I believe, and sends it around before he ever gets the wall. Luckily, gets no damage on the car. A bit of an Austin Power situation, trying to get that car going in the right direction again. Going to lose a lot of time, but the car's going to stay clean, and he'll have a better chance at it here after this sprint race is over. I want to point out, though, who's sitting in P9. Reynolds is our points leader, so he might be playing a bit of a cagey race here and trying to get Paul in the closing stages so he gets that pull for the bigger race that has more points.
That is a great call out. Blake Reynolds is very quick, and he's been known for just laying back in some of these finals and just waiting for 5-10 minutes into the race and then taking off. And he's really kind of what I could call a tire whisperer, is he just takes his time and gets going, and then he gets everything where he wants it, and then he attacks. So good call out for him, sitting in the 9th spot right now. definitely look forward to seeing him move up the field. But everybody kind of running nose to stern right now. Just over 3 minutes down and 12 minutes still left to go. Devin Hovarth is out in front. It's got about a 1.5 second advantage on Ray Kingsbury. And then you got Cody Crossgrove in the 3rd spot. Matt Kingsbury is your top Mustang right now in the 4th spot. Elias Roman in 5th. And then we come back to this pack of cars right here. You got Blake Reynolds going on the inside, like you called it, coming on the inside of Paul and takes over that 8th spot now. So Reynolds starting to make his move up, Randall. And how would you play this out? Would you just kind of lurk right here in that 8th spot, or would you just keep pushing since you know you have that pace?
Well, if you know you have the pace, you might go for a couple other spots if the opportunity presents itself. You see we have a car, looks like Crossgrove giving up the spot, possibly. No, we had Kingsbury was giving up the spot, so possibly with a slowdown or some other issue that he's getting rid of there, that he definitely moved out of the way and let Crossgrove go. So not exactly sure what led up to that, but he's now still in a good position in 3rd place, still going to be in contact with the slipstream. The Horvath is running off with this right now. Looks like Joshua Succi had a little bit of issues coming into the fountain corner. It's a very tricky double apex here that's easy to get wrong. Looks like he gets through there pretty good, and then, yep, there's a big bump there on the exit of that corner, and it bit him hard.
Yeah, that exit at 11 is no joke coming out of there, and if you are not careful on throttle, it will definitely kick you just like that. So as we're coming up on the number 6 car of Kevin Fanning, sitting and tucked in behind Elias Roman, trying to take that inside line coming into turn 3, but not enough room there. And he's able to check back and save that move for another time. But Elias Roman still hanging on to that 5th spot. Kevin Fanning in 6th. And then you see that black and purple car number 66 sitting back there of Blake Reynolds. He's already closed up to Nasir, who had about a 1/2 second or so gap on him, but he is already reeling him in. So it looks like he's going to be on the attack here as we're just passing 5 minutes. So we still have 10 minutes left to go. And looks like we got a crash here, Randall. Marwin Mofta possibly.
Marwin Mofta, he's about to come through the final corner. It's easily flat out, so I'm guessing that he had struggles with turning 1 and 2. We see him get on the brakes just a little bit too late there, it looks like. Carries too much speed and slides all the way across the track in front of oncoming traffic, but gets out of the way before anybody else gets there. Nobody else collected. A little bit of a bump on the nose. He'll get that car going again. If we can jump back to this race with Kevin Fanning and Elias Roman. Last week we saw that the Ferraris had really good straight line speed. They were able to get off the corners pretty quick, and the gear stack was good enough to translate to a lot of top end speed at the end of straightaways. And we're seeing that kind of play out again. Fanning not fast enough to really make a move. He's able to close in with the slipstream, but not enough to step out and make a move. Maybe we'll see one this time, but he's not looking very interested. There he goes. He's going to show the nose, but not really make a move. Lets Elias know that he's there. Not quite fast enough to get alongside yet.
That might tie back into just a lot of corner speed. As we're talking about, you really have to kind of slow these Mustangs down and point and turn them, and they're just not able to carry that corner speed that this Ferrari probably does. So maybe that's what ties that back in. But still a great battle here for that 5th, 6th, 7th, and 8th spot. So this is going to be row 1 and 2 when you get into the final as we invert that top 8. Your points leader, Blake Reynolds, still just lurking back there in that 8th spot. He's in that good safety spot. But, might be a good idea to kind of push away from these guys just a bit. You never know what's going to happen in front of you with some possible wreckage. But so far, all the wrecks that we've seen have been, solo cars, and everybody's been able to avoid them, surprisingly, Randall.
And we see there Kevin Fanning taking a bit of an alternate line into turn 11, maybe trying to apply some pressure in some of the slower corners to the Ferrari head. And still not getting it done, but it did make the 2 Porsches behind it, of Nasir and Reynolds, both have to check up a little bit. So we'll keep an eye on this. The gap is opening up a little bit through the final straightaway, and now it looks like Roman's going to have a lot of breathing room on this lap. So Fanning's definitely going to start feeling the pressure from behind as he's starting to look a little defensive.
Here comes Blake Reynolds diving down the inside. As we're just talking about runs coming up into turn 3, Blake goes on the inside, takes over that 7th spot. That's going to put Justin Nasir back into the 8th spot. So Blake Reynolds on the move, but Nasir's going to come back into that 8th spot, and now he's got Paul Mikulicek right behind him in that Beamer. So that's going to be the, probably it could be a pretty good fight for that invert and getting on the front row or being in the 5th row in the field when you go into the finals. But back in that 13th spot, we've got our favorite guy, as Randall likes to call him, the UPS man, Anthony Flores, leading the amateurs. Anthony's really, but definitely shown some really good pace over the last few weeks. You may kid with him about sending into turns and whatnot, but he definitely has been holding his own and definitely setting the pace really well.
Yeah, he carries a lot of speed. He doesn't make a lot of big sends, but he tends to make them stick. We've seen him have a few mistakes, but for the largest majority of the moves that he makes, they stick, and he gets the move done and carries on up the field, makes a gap, and goes and gets the next one. Right now, though, we're seeing this leaderboard look pretty bimodal, and this is one of those tracks that's really going to separate the pros from the AMs, and we're seeing that reflected on the leaderboard right now. Normally, we see the amateur leader a little bit closer to the top 10, and he's all the way back in 13th. The leaderboard's looking really blue right now.
Yeah, no, it definitely is your top 12 all pro cars right now. As we come back up with Kevin Fanning still sitting in that 6th spot, trying to make a room on that Elias, but sitting right behind him is Blake Reynolds. Blake is definitely on the move right now as we're closing in on 10 minutes down and 5 minutes still left to go in this race. This is kind of like that all-important battle back here inside the top 8 for that invert. And it looks like Nasir is starting to pull away from Paul just a little bit to get some breathing room in that 8th spot. So that's a good job for him. But Kevin Fanning still sitting in there. Are you looking ahead or are you looking behind here, Randall? You've got you're trying to move up on Elias, but now you got this black and purple Porsche right behind you.
Yeah, he's definitely going to be feeling the pressure of Reynolds behind. And his best bet to get around Roman may be for him to let Reynolds get around and then let Reynolds attack Roman and then be opportunistic and take advantage of that move, be close, and be able to pass your way through. You end up staying in the same position, but you get that car that's really slowing you down out of the way. You guys may be able to catch some other cars in the short time remaining. But right now, Roman looks to be in charge of this pack and not really going to be giving it up without a mistake. So we'll have to keep an eye on them. But I expect to see Reynolds making an inside move coming into turn 3 this time.
Yeah, it's definitely, it's one of those things where, if you're Kevin, you can go, okay, I'll let you go by. And in worst case, I'm sitting on the front row for the invert. So, it might be a good option for him. But as you said, the field's kind of getting spread out right now. So you got Devin Hovarth out in front. We haven't really talked much about him since the start, but he's out in front, and he's got a 3.5 second advantage almost on Cody Crossgrove. So, you got 3.2 seconds back to Cody, and then you got another 3.5 seconds back to Ray Kingsbury. Matt Kingsbury not too far back in that Mustang, kind of closing that gap a bit, but you've got, just over a second. Then you got 2 seconds back to Elias Roman, and then this whole pack of, 4 guys right here battling out for that, 6th through 8th spot. And then, just from there on back, it just slowly, 1 second here, 1 second there. So everybody's faring pretty well around this tough track. And like you said, the pros, the guys that really know this track, Randall, it's definitely showing. And the guys that aren't, that are still not too sure about it, it's definitely showing on the leaderboard.
Yeah, we're watching Kevin Fanning coming through some of that section in Sector 2 of the track, really hanging the rear end out. So the tires already starting to bark on this Mustang, so not a good sign for the feature race. They're really going to have to be gentle with those tires, which means they're probably going to give some spots up. Now we're seeing Horvath with a big lead. We've seen this same thing play out last week at Bathurst, and he'll be starting back in 8th place, and this is not a track that's super easy to pass on. So he's going to have a lot of trouble making his way through the field, and then whoever's in the front is going to have the clean track this time, and they're going to run away with it. So we may see a repeat of last week with whoever starts in the front just kind of runs off.
Yeah, it's very much, there's really only two good passing zones here, and that's turn 3 and turn 7. Turn 3 after that big, long kind of a front straightaway, and we've seen Blake Reynolds make a couple moves there, and as the guys just passed turn 7, that's another spot where it's kind of the not so straightaway, but it's a good passing zone, a good drafting area, and you can reel in your people there. So as you see Blake just tucked up under that rear wing right now of that Mustang, give it a little look to say, I'm still here. I'm not sure if I want to pass you yet or not, but we're closing in on about 2.5 minutes still left to go. So we still got about 2 laps with these guys to go around, and you still see that battle with Kevin Fanning and Blake Reynolds. And Justin Nasir still hanging on to that 8th spot. But he is starting to take a little bit of pressure from Paul Mikulicek from that 8th and 9th spot right now. So that transfer position could come into play here as we've got a minute to go. So these guys are going to get by for one more time, but we'll get a white flag this next time by. So it's a great battle right now for 5th, 6th, and 7th, and then also 8th and 9th as you see those guys back there, right in the back rear view right here. Just kind of getting close. We got 2 cars actually really close with Paul, so could lead to some chaos here coming in onto the white flag next time by. But your top car is still separating quite a bit, Randall. It's the top battle is really in this 5th, 6th, and 7th spot.
Yeah, this is the best fight that we have going on right now, and that transfer position. If you're Nasir in that transfer spot coming to the white flag, you're running a defensive line in every corner. If that big BMW gets next to you, it's going to be like getting overtaken by a boxcar. You're not going to have anywhere to go, and you're just going to be stuck in no man's land. So you definitely want to defend that inside as much as possible. Don't even give him the whiff of an opportunity, even if it slows you down.
No, I have to completely agree with you. The Beamer definitely is a very large appearing car next to a Porsche, a Corvette that he's running with, but we're still following around with Kevin Fanning right now. Just kind of tucked in right now and coming down it through turns 2 and down the front, kind of a front straightaway. It looks like there was a little bit of a mistake back there from Paul Mikulicek. He dropped back off of Nasir, so not sure what quite happened. I did see a little bit of dust kick up back there, but he did lose a spot, and that's going to give a lot of breathing room to Justin Nasir now in that final transfer position to get that invert. So our battle for that 8th spot seems to be on hold right now, but we can go back up into that 6th, 7th, and 5th spot with Elias and Kevin and Blake sitting here. Blake tucked in behind Kevin, making that run down that kind of a not so straight right now, Randall.
I can hear the thoughts coming through Blake's head. Do I want to make this move and get the points, or do I want to start on the front row? And it looks like he's probably going to be happy with the front row start unless there's a big mistake out of Kevin. Of course, he could be lulling him to sleep. You can kind of catch some people off guard on that braking zone into turn 11 and send one up the inside, but Fanning has been doing a pretty good job of defending that with his alternate line all day. So not really seeing much of that coming out of Reynolds. So he's tucked in now. He's going to give a little bit of space to make 12 and 13 a little bit easier to navigate. Maybe try to win a drag race to the line, but it doesn't look like he's going to be close enough to get it done.
Yeah, this is our closest battle on the track right now for that 5th and 6th spot, but we jump back up front. Devin Hovarth actually taking the win. He had a 5-second advantage there on that last lap. Cody Crosscove's going to come across in 2nd, and Ray Kingsbury will be in 3rd. So we got our whole group of guys coming across the lines right now. Everybody kind of shutting it down as we're jumping back into the field. Kevin Bogart coming around, and then you got Ryan O'Connor, Jeff Johnson, everybody finishing up their last lap here. Good clean race actually, Randall, for, we're talking about, all these issues with this track, but that was pretty uneventful.
We did see a couple drivers spin on their own there, but you're right. It was very clean, no real contact-induced incidents, though I expect we'll see a bit more elbows out at the start of this 45-minute race with that top 8 being inverted. And as that race goes on, different cars dealing with tires differently will play a big role in what goes on track. But the 45-minute race should be spicier.
No, I have to completely agree with you, and the track temp still being up a little bit. And And these tires, like we've talked in the last few recent races, that the Mustangs really heat up them tires quite a bit. And it'll be interesting to see who is able to manage their tires well and who is able to, who burns them up. So we'll have to see as we see Tim Brokaw, the last car on the track to come across the line and finish our heat race. And we will come up with our results as we get our scoring done and dusted here. And we might get our standings. We'll see how production goes. You never know in the streets of Detroit what happens and what things start disappearing. So let's view standings and see what we got here. So here's our championship standings right now. So in the amateur class, we got John Ebersol leads the points right now with 164 points. Kevin Bogart in the second spot with 148. Marwin Mofta with 129, and only 1 point behind him is Josh Stoltz in the 99 car. And rounding out your top 5 in the points is Travis Deflumer. Run over to the pro side, Randall. What do we got?
Right now, it's going to be Blake Reynolds leading the way with a massive lead over the likes of Ray Kingsbury. Ray Kingsbury actually tied for second with Roman Rateau currently. We'll see how this plays out. This race is definitely going to shake up that battle. Elias Roman in fourth place with 251 points, and Carter Hutcherson in fifth place with 244 points, actually tied for fifth with Matt Kingsbury.
Yeah, so a lot of ties right now in our point system, and this is definitely going to be where things are going to come apart. And like you said, I would not be surprised to see some real elbows out. Everybody kind of settled in pretty good during the heat race, but this 45-minute main event should be a little bit more spicy. And as we're just kind of following Tim Brokaw around right now in that Mustang, we're talking about cars, and the Mustang is definitely a very beautiful car, and I really like the way it looks, but it is not the easiest thing to drive, Randall. These things, in the rain. Have you tried one in the rain yet?
Oh, it was horrible. Yeah, they are not very friendly in the rain. One thing we did see last week that may shake out again this week is we saw some drivers make some adjustments to their setup. We had a couple of drivers change the gear stack they were using between the heat race and the feature race, and it made a huge difference in the car. So we could see some setup changes, which could lead to some more action. Some drivers you didn't expect to be fast after the 15-minute race now suddenly have a lot of pace in the 45-minute race and have to work their way through some traffic. And I'm going to say it again, it's tough to pass here, and traffic is going to be an absolute nightmare. So watch for the likes of Nasir and Reynolds to have a big gap, and watch it even form pretty early.
Yeah, no, I have to agree. But this track is really key for the more nimble type cars. So, seeing Kevin and Matt running that Mustang up in the top 5 in that first heat race was a little bit of a surprise for me. And the Beamer of Paul Mikulicek finishing in that 8th spot. He was able to get that invert, so he's going to be sitting pretty on that front row, and it definitely is going to be interesting to see how these guys do. As we're in the warm-up stage right now, they do their heat race, they do a warm-up, so guys can, if they want to get up and take a walk around, use the restroom, whatever, and just take a break, and then they bring it in about 5 minutes. So we're just kind of following Tim around right now. And just seeing some guys run some laps around the track as they're getting ready for their final. So they might be, like you said, they might be going through and changing little tunes here and there. So is there anything that you would have changed, Randall, to go from a heat race to the final? Is there something you would have done?
If my car wasn't dealing with the curves very well, I might actually soften up the shocks a little bit to deal with some of the bumpier sections of this track, especially in the rear part of the car, to deal with some of these bumps on corner exit that are catching people out, like you see in turn 2 and turn 11. If some of these drivers that had issues with tires, I might be making a geometry change there to try to ease the tire pressure a little bit and even out the tire temperatures. But if it's a big change, you were probably pretty bad in the 15-minute race, and now you're going to have something completely unknown. You're going to get a couple laps in on it now, But unless you're really, really familiar with this track and how to go around it quick, a big change is not going to help you.
No, I have to completely agree, and there really is no smooth part of this track. It is very bumpy, it's very uneven, and you definitely have to run the car pretty soft. I've ran a couple LMP races around here, and those things are just like shaking your teeth out, even just on the simulator. So it is definitely an uneasy track. As you see, we're closing up on the warm-up right now. And we're going to start getting lined up for our main event, as we're going to get the grid set and we can go through our order and see what it looks like here. So our grid for the final, Justin Nasir will be starting on the pole. And then you're going to have Blake Reynolds on that outside line. In the third spot is Kevin Fanning with Elias Roman in fourth. Matt Kingsbury will be starting in the fifth spot with Ray Kingsbury side by side with him going into turns 1 and 2. Cody Crossgrove will be in seventh. Eighth spot is Devin Hovarth. Brandon Lambert will be starting ninth, and P10 will be Paul Mikulicek.
11th place is going to see Roman Ratos starting alongside the number 2 of Steve Baker, who had a pretty quiet heat race, so probably a good race for him, and hopefully he'll have another quiet race where he can make some spots. Anthony Flores is going to be on your amateur pole once again, starting in P13. Casey O'Brien in 14th. Murphy Nichols 15th, with Brian Sohn in 16th. Joshua Stoltz, the second of the amateur cars, in that number 99 car in 17th, starting next to the number 69 nice of Kevin Bogart in 18th. 19th is going to be Ryan O'Connor, and 20th will be Jeff Johnson.
At 21st spot will be John Ebersol. Next to him will be Jason Lynn. Brian Zabalowski will be 23rd. Josh Suchi will be 24th. 25th will be Tim Brokaw. Alex Hillman, 26th. And Marwin Mofta is going to be starting scratch to the field in 27th. So we were talking about it earlier in that heat race, laying back, sitting in that 7th, 8th spot. And look who's sitting on that up front row right now. The guy that's got a million points lead right now, Blake Reynolds, sitting P2 right now. Randall, how big of a gap do you think it's going to be by 5 minutes in?
At 5 minutes in, it may be up to 5 seconds, if we're honest here. The ones that I'm really going to be keeping my eye on are in 5th and 6th, though. I have a couple brothers, and nobody fights like brothers. So that we've seen them work together in a few spots, but they've never, I don't know that they've started next to each other on a track like this before. So watch out, turns 1 and 2. We may see a little bit of brotherly love going on.
Yeah, we're going to have to see as the iRacing pace car jumps down to the pit lane, and we've got Justin Nasir doing an early start, getting that early start, really surprising the field and getting a hole shot. And Blake Reynolds tucks in behind, but you see that brotherly love coming in through here a little bit as you see Matt drop back, actually lose a couple spots from his brother. Everybody kind of coming single file as they're coming down that long straightaway, but here's where we need to really start getting to tighten down as Elias Roman gets on the inside of Ray Kingsbury and takes over. Oh! Here comes the wreck. And Elias Roman spins out and is able to... Oh, man, that was... Everybody kind of avoiding that pretty good, Randall.
It looked like Devin Horvath got caught looking there, holding behind the slow car of Elias Roman. It looks like he and Kingsbury came together. Maybe it looked like Roman may have gotten a little bit of oversteer there on corner exit, was a little bit slower on exit, and had to slow down in front of Kingsbury, which caused a little bit of contact. Kingsbury making contact with the rear, and we see Roman here just trying to recover the car, trying to get out of everybody's way. And it's very hard to see when there's a slow car in traffic like this on the opening laps. You just, all of a sudden, there's a blocker there, and you have to get onto those brakes really hard.
But with all these walls around, too, a lot of these turns end up being a blind turn. So if you're coming around and you can't see what's going on, and that's a big surprise when you got a car way slowed down right there. But back out in front, coming around for the first time by Justin Nasir, leading the way in that all-gray car 41. But he's got Blake Reynolds just lurking right behind him. And I honestly foresee a turn 3 pass coming down this long straightaway as Nasir, Reynolds tucked in behind him. But Nasir playing that blocking role coming down into turn 3, really playing defense and holds that inside line. And Blake's like, okay, I'll just wait another lap and see what we can do. But Kevin Fanning now closing in. So we got the top 3 running nose to tail. As you see Fanning really getting that back tire stepped out quite a bit in that Mustang. But a little bit of gap opening it up now between the top 3 and the rest of the field, Randall.
As we see Kevin Fanning go around, I was about to say, last time out of turn 13, he had a heavy look with the wall, and seeing that oversteer a few corners ago, not surprised that he probably had picked up a little bit of damage, and it rears its head there in turn 7, which is an easy place to lose the rear end. And we see him go around. We're going to watch one more time as he comes through turns 5 and 6. And you saw him step out a little bit there in turn 5. Now he's going to be coming through turn 6, and he's just going to oversteer. And that damage on that car from that contact with the turn 13 exit really showing itself and causing him to spin around. Doesn't look like he picked up any other damage in that incident, but seems like he's fighting the wheel after that initial hit.
I bet you that incident backed up to probably about 3 or 4 turns before when he really stepped it out and overheated those rear tires and got it to chase around on him. But here we are back up front with Justin and Blake. Blake trying to make a good move off of turn 2, getting a good draft, but Justin's really playing that defensive line, blocking that inside line on Blake and forcing Blake to really use that outside line. But Blake looks on that high-low move, trying to maybe get a move here, but he just hangs in back behind him. But Justin this year playing a great defensive role into that turn 3, and we've talked that's one of the major break points on here. Is turn 3, but now we come back to that 3rd spot of Devin Hovarth, sitting right there with Ray Kingsbury, Cody Crossgrove, and Matt Kingsbury. Tucked in here. We got 3 cars right. It's kind of like a 2x3x4 kind of right now. You got your top 2 running together, top 3 running together, and then you got about 4 cars running together in for that 6th spot and back. So everybody doing pretty good. Again, surprisingly, we're not seeing a whole lot of chaos yet. Randall, it's like, we really only had the one Mustang really spin out, and then Elias step it out into the grass and got a tire off the track and just kind of spun out. But everybody else is kind of minding their P's and Q's right now.
Horvath has opened up the gap on Kingsbury, and he's really working to close that gap to Blake Reynolds ahead. He really wants Nasir to continue to defend turn 3 the way he's been. Nasir has to know that his days are numbered. So doing this defense is keeping him in the lead for now, but it's going to make him ultimately lose positions. I know it's hard when you're in the lead to not fight for that lead, but you got to almost play the long game here as we're seeing him take the defensive line again. Reynolds a bit further back, so maybe trying to set up a run on the exit and get that big run into turn 3. And not going to have it this time, but not seeing as much defense out of Nasir this lap. Of course, Reynolds not as close, so he would have been defending air at that point. But they both got to know that Horvath is exceptionally fast and is going to close that gap really quick. We've seen it come down 0.6 just in this half a lap.
Yeah, he is definitely the car on the move right now. Is Devin Hovarth as well. Oh, we got a couple car crash here. It looks like Kevin Bogart, Randall. Looks like 2 cars getting tangled together, and we'll have to see what this looks like when they back it up here a little bit. But tough break for Kevin Bogart, and looks like coming. Let's see. Here we go. A little late to the party. But
yeah, it looks like it developed in turn 1 there. As we see now coming off turn 13 and coming to this final corner into the start-finish straight. And yeah, I expect we're going to see some stacking up here in turn 1. There's some contact ahead, which causes a checkup that not everybody sees and leads to a secondary incident. So the secondary incident, the bigger one here, we see them blocking up pit exit. Luckily, the pit window not really open for these drivers, so nobody coming out to have to deal with that. But a scary situation if it happens a few minutes later in the race.
Yeah, no, that is a definite spot. Turns 1 and 2 are such a flowy turn that it's surprising how hard you have to get onto the brake in turn 1 so that you can carry your good speed through turns 2. As we see that checkup right there as they get tangled together, and tough break for all 3 of those guys as we jump back up, and it looks like Mr. Reynolds did get by Justin Nasir, but look in that 3rd spot. Devin Hovarth is right there. So here they come down into turn 3. It just took a few laps to get that set up and get close enough, and Blake Reynolds down the inside to take over the lead. But as you see now, you got that Ferrari sitting in that 3rd spot now of Devin Hovarth. Devin already looking for a place to get by Justin Nasir. coming off that back straightaway now, and they're coming into the fountain section right now. Great battle for that second and third spot. A couple Porsche and a Ferrari going at it, and Devin really closed in quick with this group, and he needs to really hurry up, Randall, to get by Justin Nasir and not let Blake get too far away.
And Blake Reynolds is really hoping that Justin Nasir gives Hovarth as much trouble as he gave himself. He's like, come on, you kept me blocked up for 3 or 4 laps. Do it to him now so I can run away from this. But if Horvath can get around this time by, he might have enough to reel in Reynolds, and we might have a race on our hands for the win.
Yeah, this is definitely going to be interesting. He's a little far back right now coming out of turn 2, but it looks like he made a good run coming out of 2. Let's see if Devin Hovarth can actually make a good run on Justin Nasir coming into turn 3, and can't quite stick it there. He's still going to wait another lap around and see if he can hold it off. But great battle for second and third with Justin and Devin going at it. As we jump back to Marwin Mofta in the 18th, running with, or 20th with Alex Hillman, as they're coming down the front straight right now, that big long straightaway into that long braking zone, as you see a whole group of Mustangs running together. You got 4 Mustangs all running together. So this is, oh man, a little bit of tap right there, Randall. It's a little bit of pain back here with all those Mustangs.
And Tim Brokaw getting into the grass there on the exit of turn 3, as we see, is that Jeff Johnson running wide, and this is going to get out of these drivers' ways, I think, is what's going on here. He's like, you guys are wild. Just go on, please. It's just getting out of the way, and going to let those 3 carry on. Marwin Mofta and Hillman both up 8 spots right now from where they started. We saw Marwin had an issue in turn 1 in the heat race. Now doing a recovery run here in the 45-minute feature. These guys need to work together more than they need to work against each other. The Mustangs are really going to be feeling those tires after 15-20 minutes, and if they use them all up now, it's going to be a very long race.
No, absolutely. As we're just crossing the 9-minute mark right now, we still have quite a bit of race. Oh, as you see that Ferrari of Aaron Flores really get sideways, but you see a lead change. It looks like Aaron dropping back. Aaron was a couple spots up on John Stoltz, and it looks like John Stoltz now leading the amateur class in that big old Mustang. So good job so far from John in the 99 car, and he looks like he's pulling away from Aaron, from Anthony Flores. Little surprised, maybe Anthony overheated the tires already. I've seen a couple times where it looked like it stepped out a little bit, so we'll have to see how he's able to recover, see if he's able to get back by John, or if John is able to pull that big old Mustang around and pull away. So we got 10 minutes down and 35 minutes still left to go. We're starting to see some guys already really overheating their tires, Randall. You know, like you said, you really got to pace these things, and it's a little early for these guys to start, you know, really kicking that tail end around.
The track temperature right now, 106 degrees Fahrenheit, 41 degrees Celsius, so it's pretty warm on track. It could be a lot hotter, but it's still plenty warm where the streets of Detroit are gonna be pretty greasy. You see the sky's partly cloudy, not very many clouds though. So temperatures are gonna continue to stay in this high range, maybe even get a bit higher. They are running pretty late in the evening right now in the sim. It is just past 6 p.m. in the sim, so maybe they'll see a little bit of relief towards the end of the race. But that track temperature is going to stay high the entire time. So you're right. Some of these drivers are going to be feeling those tires. We may see some tire changes in the pit stop.
Yeah, it's 11 minutes down, so still plenty of action time. And Blake Reynolds, as we were watching that lead group right there, Blake Reynolds has already opened up to a 3.5-second advantage, as Devin Hovarth is still trying to get by Justin Nasir, and he has not been able to do that. And you could just see Reynolds pulling away and taking off. But what this is also doing is it's also bringing Ray Kingsbury up into that 4th spot and really pinching up this group. But looks like we've got a problem with Joshua Stucci here, Randall, coming around the fountain.
Yeah, he's going through turns 9 and 10, also known as the fountain corner, and then gonna guess. Oh no, before he gets to turn 11, he has some issues there. Collects both ends into the wall, then carries on through turn 11. He might be coming in soon to take some repairs, but not a good run for him today. He's gonna be happy to see Detroit in his rearview mirror.
I think a lot of guys are going to be happy to see Detroit in the rearview mirror. This is not a favorite for most people, but some of us kind of gluttons for punishment seem to enjoy this track more than others. But as we're back out in front now with that car 66 of Blake Reynolds, as you see a four-way battle now for that second spot. Justin Nasir still hanging on to that second spot. Oh, it looks like Devin Hobart may have tried to really carry some extra speed coming into turn 2 there and tap that wall, as now he's, here comes Justin, really playing that defensive role. But here comes that Ferrari round the outside, really trying to stick it through the outside line, not able to do it. But here comes Ray Kingsbury on that inside. So, man, that almost left him high and dry and to lose a spot. But Ray Kingsbury has grained into these guys, and he's sitting in that 4th spot. He bought Cody Crossgrove with him as well. And not too far behind them is Matt and Lambert in the 6th and 7th spot. So here we are back with our amateurs. And as you see, Anthony back on that rear bumper of John Stoltz. So we're going to have to see if Anthony could work his way back through Josh or not. I'm not sure what happened to Anthony, because Randall, he was like 3 spots ahead, but looks like he's trying to make a move now.
Maybe he got slowed down with that Matt Kingsbury incident. There was a bit of backup there in turn 6 as he's on the outside for turn 7. Not going to be able to get it done. Normally, you can't get it done on the outside of turn 7. Sometimes you can get it done on the outside of turn 3 if you really pinch that inside driver down. That involves a lot of trust, both in the other driver and in the netcode, and seems to be in short supply today. He's going to make a move to the inside on turn 12. There's just a look, but this is a place where it's going to be very tight, and it did not work out for either driver. They're both going to have contact with the barriers. Flores is going to come out the better for it, but he's missing that rear wing. So watch him go through turns 1 and 2. He's really going to struggle.
Yeah, that's a tough break for Josh. He had a great run going, and Aaron, he lived up to your name, Randall. He definitely sent it coming into a turn that you would not normally expect it. But now you got Brian Zabowski right behind him, trying to close in coming into turn 3, and he might have a better run with no damage on his car to get around that outside. And Anthony sends it again through into turn 3, and really holding on to that. But he's going to have a whole lot of problem trying to hang on with Brian and Tim Brokaw right behind him as well, the Pro Division. But battle for that amateur spot now is definitely the wingless, the wingless Anthony.
Wonder.
Yeah, the wingless wonder leading the amateurs right now. But Brian Zawalski is definitely right behind him and pushing hard. So we'll have to resume that battle here shortly. But 15 minutes down, we still have 30 minutes still left to go. As you see up in top, you got Blake Reynolds opening up to a 7-second advantage now, as we're coming back to Justin Nasir. So this is a battle for that 2nd and 3rd spot right now. Coming into turns 3, Randall, looks like they got side by side.
Yeah, Horvath with the outside move, and then I think we're going to see some contact here in turn 4, and Nasir is going to lose it out on the inside. He's going to end up driving that car backwards on track and getting onto that patch of grass where we were watching Flores defend that position without a wing. You may have caught a glimpse of Nasir there on the inside of turn 4, and I was just waiting for our production booth to pull up that replay, because I had already seen that it was shaken out and that Nasir came off the worst for it. So right now, Horvath has a nearly 7-second gap to make up to Blake Reynolds.
Yeah, no, that's it's going to be a big undertaking to take. So we'll have to see how his lap times come. But I mean, he's already gaining a little bit of space, as you see it getting down to the 6:06.1 time. And then Matt Kingsbury in the 3rd spot. But we're back with our amateurs right now, and it looks like something happened to Anthony Flores. I think he may have went into pits to get some repairs done, but he disappeared from this group, and I think he did jump in the pits, it looks like, and he's down in the field a little bit farther. But so now you got Brian Zabalski is leading the way in the amateurs in that Ferrari. Tim Brokaw right behind him in the pro class in that white and blue Mustang, but right behind him is Marvin Mofta and Alex Hillman. So we got a 3-pack of Mustangs going together. And a little sideways there from Alex Hillman coming into, it looks like the fountain turn.
Yeah, it gets a little bit wrong. There's a grate there on the inside that you want to get close to, but you want to be breaking away from the apex before you get to that grate. And it looks like maybe he was just too far inside still, got around a little bit, or was carrying too much brake. Manages to keep it mostly out of the wall. A little tap to the rear shouldn't do any damage, and he's going to carry on. But it takes him out of contention for that. As we're seeing Brokaw look to the inside of turn 1. Ooh, he's very tight through there, but he's going to have the good run, and as long as he can get the throttle down, the wheel straight, he does. He gets the pass done on the outside of turn 2, and he's going to bring Mafta with him. So that's going to drop Zabelski back to P2 in the amateur division. Mafta covers off the racing line, gets into the braking zone, and now has inherited the amateur class lead from starting last on the field.
Yeah, that's a tough pass coming in through there. As we see, another crash from Matt Kingsbury coming around the fountain area of Randall. Looks like they were side by side, and we jumped to a different car, and he just towed in.
Yeah, he was taking the defensive line there. It looked like into turn 8, it had to come in a little bit tight. They had another car alongside there in turn 7, trying to get that spot back. That's the best time to get a spot back, is right after you get past, and this runs a little bit wide. It looked like there was just enough space there between him and who else was that? Not Roman Rateau, but somebody else.
Brandon Lambert.
Lambert, yeah, it was Lambert. And there was enough space there, but he just ran a little bit wide. An unfortunate racing incident there for Kingsbury, going to take him out of this race.
Yeah, that's a tough break, and that's a tough spot. I mean, it's one where you almost have to concede the position and really fight another day with him. But jumping back out front, the man that we probably might not see much of today, Blake Reynolds leading the way. But as you come back to Devin Hovarth, you notice the lap time. It's coming down. The gap is 5.3 seconds. So he's actually gained, about 0.8 of a second over the last couple laps. So this could be a battle here towards the end, as we're not even quite to 20 minutes yet. So we still have quite a bit of time left. But we're on right now with Brandon Lambert in that 6th spot in that Corvette. He was involved in that little bit of skirmish with Kingsbury, and it looks like he doesn't have too much damage. It just got pinched coming around into this turn right here, and he is looking to close in on Roman Rateau. Romain really was the benefactor of that incident earlier, and put him up into that 5th spot now, so top 5 spot for him. And he gets a little sideways through there, Randall, and just collected that wall.
It's easy to do. I think he may have been looking a bit too much in his mirror, seeing where that car behind him was, maybe missed his brake mark, came in with a little too much speed, and the rear just stepped out on him. It's really easy to do on many of the corners in on this track, particularly that one, and you have less room than it even looks like you have between 12 and 13 to get a car back under control, and he made heavy contact with the barrier. So he's going to be struggling to nurse that car home for the rest of the race, gives that spot back up that he had inherited after that incident. I want to talk about the lead just a little bit. We're seeing it go down. This lap, Horvath was a bit faster. The previous lap, they had nearly identical times. If Horvath catches him, we're going to have an epic battle, because it seems like the Ferrari faster in a straight line, but the Porsche better under braking. So it's one thing to catch another car. It's a completely different thing to passing.
Absolutely. And as you see, the gap has definitely come down in the sectors. You can see sector 1 that Hovarth was a good 1/10 and a half faster. And then sector 2, just under a 1/10. But it looks like Reynolds was a little bit quicker in sector 3. So that's a little bit harder braking zone after the fountain area and coming into 12 and 13. So we'll have to see how this works out, as Blake Reynolds still out in front and showing the way. We'll kind of go through the running order right now. You got Blake Reynolds out in front. In the 2nd spot, we have Devin Hovarth in the Ferrari. And then in the 3rd spot, we've got Ray Kingsbury. So Ray is about 5 seconds behind Devin right now in that 3rd spot. And right behind him is Cody Crossgrove in another Porsche in that 4th spot. And then back in the 5th spot, got a little bit of a gap back, 5 seconds back to Brandon Lambert in that 5th spot, rounding out your top 5. So he's, everybody's kind of separating themselves. Close battle right now for that 3rd and 4th spot, and then you got a little bit of a gap back into that 10th spot and a couple battles there. But Marwan Mafta, our amateur leader, sitting in that 13th spot still. So Mafta definitely was the benefactor of that incident earlier and was able to capitalize. But like you said, he's up 14 spots right now, Randall. That is brutal work coming through on Belle Isle.
Yeah, and one of the other Mustangs that was running with this pack, Alex Hillman, we've seen him enter the pit lane. So really the first of the drivers to come in to take pit lane service, as we're going to watch Hillman coming through here on turn 11, and pretty good there. So it looks like maybe an issue here in 12 and 13. If not, it's just him dipping into the pit lane. No big issues in 12 and 13 with a lot of damage. So that is not going to be regular service for Hillman. He does take the tow. He has been stationary for a while there in pit lane. So yet to see any takers on pit lane, and we're halfway through the race.
These guys usually are fueled up enough to get through on no stops, so we'll have to see if that is going to be the case here and see what the fuel mileage looks like with this limited fuel that they run. But Blake Reynolds already coming up on some lap traffic, so 23 minutes down. But as you look up on that board right now, as you see Devin Hobart, less than 5 seconds behind your leader, so he has definitely been inching his way closer and closer. So we'll have to see if he's able to really capitalize on this and really make a big dent coming up through this lap traffic, if he's able to make it through that lap traffic any better than Blake. So everybody kind of spread out right now, but our close battle is still in that 3rd and 4th spot with Ray Kingsbury and Cody Crossgrove. Cody is wingless as well now, and Porsches already do Porsche things, but man, without a rear wing, Randall, that could make it even worse.
It looks like his car's pretty stable, so I'm wondering if maybe what we're seeing is not actual damage, though he's a little slow coming through turn 11. Unless we see him dip into the pit lane, I don't think this is real damage. The rest of the car looks clean, so it would be tough to knock that rear wing off without damaging anything else on the car, and he doesn't seem to be nursing it through any of these corners very much. He did lose a handful of time to Kingsbury that lap, so not exactly sure if that damage is real or not. Sometimes with the joy of sim racing, you pick up netcode damage and netcode hits where they don't really exist. And the driver in the car is like, there's no problem at all. And then to us, we don't see a wing on that thing.
Yeah, he may have picked up some damage slapping the side of a wall somewhere, and it looks like there's a little bit of damage on that left rear corner. Nothing too terrible. He's still able to turn some decent laps, but it's enough damage to let Ray kind of pull away. And now you're going to have to see if Brandon Lambert can reel him in that Corvette and make a move up into the top 4. But if you want to kind of roll through the rest of the field, we got Lambert. The production is really having some problems with people in the booth right now. So Brandon Lambert running in the 5th spot. In the 6th spot, though, you've got Romain Rateau in that Porsche, and then in the 7th spot, Paul Mikulajczyk. Paul, up 3 spots, doing a good job. Up in the 8th spot is Steve Baker, and running seems to be a theme right now, is that wingless wonders going around the track. So we'll have to see. He's got quite a bit of damage on that Porsche, Randall, and he's still running around here in the 8th spot.
Looks like one of my old Hot Wheels there with the damage he's got on it. He's going to be really holding on for dear life. Hopefully he brought his Braun driving suit this week, because he's going to need it the way that car is going to be handling. It'll probably be a rocket ship in a straight line, but some of these higher speed corners are really going to be dodgy. He looks pretty good there coming out of 13, so maybe knocking the wing off is a bit of Mark Martin damage meta here and making him faster. Right now, it doesn't seem to be struggling with it too much. P9, we have Casey O'Brien there in the Ferrari, and I think I confused him with Horvath earlier in the race. So he surrendered the spot to Brian Sohn, so Brian Sohn moved up to 9th place. And I think O'Brien, I may have confused with Horvath. They have, if not identical, very similar liveries. So I think it was Casey O'Brien caught up in that initial scrum. Then we jump back to 11th place with Casey Nichols. Or sorry, not Casey Nichols, Murphy Nichols. I've got Casey O'Brien on the brain, apparently. Murphy Nichols running 11th. Tim Brokaw, the first of the Mustangs right now since Kingsbury had that incident, running in 12th place. Then 13th sees your amateur leader, Marwan Mafta, who is up 14 spots since the start of this race. He started last on the field, and now he's running 13th. Right behind him, though, is the lone Mercedes of Ryan O'Connor. They're in 14th in the number 95 car. We haven't seen much of him today, and at Belle Isle, that's probably a good thing.
In the 15th spot, you've got Brian Cebulski in that Ferrari. Right behind him is Justin Nasir. So Justin, after that little mistake earlier, really dropped down. Looks like 15 spots, so tough break for him. Anthony Flores running in the 15th spot, our early leader in the amateur class, and dropping back. And then John Stultz working his way back up. So he's in the 18th spot after that spin out with Flores. In the 19th spot is Jeff Johnson. And in the 20th spot is Kevin Bogart, and rounding out your top 20. Then you come back to the 21st place car of Matt Kingsbury. Behind him is Elias Roman, just kind of, trying to do recovery drive. This is where all these recovery guys are back here. Jason Lynn in the 23rd spot, and Joshua Suchi running 24th, and then everybody else is off the track right now. But Blake Reynolds still out in front, but you see, Randall, that gap is coming down.
It's coming down, but it's not coming down nearly as quickly as it was before. So far, Reynolds has had some pretty good leader luck with traffic. Right now, stuck behind the number 69 entry, but Horvath seems to have a bit more of trouble with traffic. Where Reynolds is catching him in the good spots, Horvath is catching him in the not so great spots. He is right now behind Matt Kingsbury, probably going to catch him here on the straightaway run to turn 3, which is a good spot, and he's going to get a bit of slipstream. But it seems like he's had more struggles with traffic than our leader has.
Yeah, that is like we talked about earlier. It is so tough to pass here, and you really got to pick and choose your battles with these cars, and especially if you've got cars that are damaged. They may not be as fast as you through that infield, but you have to really wait through those sections to make a pass. But as you see, Paul Mikulicek in that 7th spot, looking on the outside of Roman Rateau, and can't quite get the deal done. He tucks back in behind Romain as they come in to turns 4 and 5. This is a real tricky section here. Turn 5 is kind of deceiving. It's almost kind of like an off-camber turn, and if you're not careful, definitely can get those cars to step out. But Romain pulling out just a little bit of gap now on Paul in that Beamer. And then not too far behind Paul there is Steve Baker, just waiting for a mistake. Oh, I thought that was Steve right behind him. It's about 7 seconds back to the next car. So big gap actually back to that 8th spot. But as we're closing in on 30 minutes down, 15 minutes to go, Randall, a lot of these guys, like we said earlier, really used up their tires. There's a lot of guys that have slapped the walls and have lost their wings. So, what are you doing from the last 15 minutes here? What kind of drive do you have to do to keep this car into the finish?
We see Joshua Suksi doing what I would be trying to avoid, and sliding those rear tires around. This is definitely a rear limited track. You're coming out of some corners very slow and getting back into the throttle, and it's going to be easy to step that rear end out. You really need to take care of those rear tires. We've seen Roman Rateau here doing a lot of defense, and the Porsches are going to be exceptionally stout on the defense with their braking capabilities. But if they have to defend for too many laps, it can really put a lot of wear on the front tires. Tire management is really the name of the game here. And if you're one of these cars with a bunch of damage, you're going to need to really be nursing. As we see, Jason Lynn has some trouble coming up to the fountain turns, following Josh Stoltz. Is he going to get this inside curve too much, or just carry too much speed? It's tough to say. Yeah, just carries too much speed there through the fountain turn and gets out there in the marbles. It's you can't really see very much there, but the dirt and the rubber builds up offline very close there. So if you run just a little bit wide, you're going to struggle. And that's what we saw there.
No, absolutely. Yeah, this track is, as we talked about, it's 106-degree track temps, and these tires really starting to warm up. And as we talked, some of these cars, especially the Mustangs, they have a tendency of really overheating the tires. That we just talked about it. And Josh Stoltz going into turn 1 just backed it straight into the wall. As we go back on a replay right now, as we're kind of jump back on live here now. So we got Kevin Bogart in that 19th spot right now, closing in on Jeff Johnson in the 18th spot. So Jeff tapping the brakes and letting him go by. So Johnson just does not want nothing to do with Kevin Bogart and just lets him go by. So everybody getting spread out right now. Casey O'Brien sitting in that 10th spot is starting to close in on Brian Sohn in what is my favorite car around Detroit, the Audi. Definitely is one nimble car to get around this track, and Brian's done a great job of keeping this thing in the top 10 right now and repping me well with my favorite car. And now I'm going to give him the commentator curse, and 2 turns from now he's going to slap the wall. We'll have to see. I hope I am wrong, but we'll have to see how that plays out. You know how that works, Randall. As soon as you talk about something, it happens.
Especially the Audi. The Audi will do Audi things at any time, and if you give it any attention, it just wants to jump around like Stewart. Right now, if you look at the leaderboard, though, you have to go all the way down to 15th place to find any driver that hasn't gained spots, and that's pretty typical for a track like Belle Isle. Either you keep it clean or you don't. And if you keep it clean, you gain spots. If you don't, you lose spots. As we see one of the other wingless wonders, Cody Crossgrove, there in 4th place. Brian Sohn in 9th, and with Casey O'Brien hot on his tail. So O'Brien going to be looking to get this move done on the Audi. Might have a good shot at a run down between turns 2 and 3 if he can keep it close enough to get the move done early. We see a bit of a dent there on the front of Casey O'Brien's car, so maybe he's been using that bumper already. Hopefully he doesn't have to use it again.
Yeah, here they come across the start-finish line for one more lap, and this is where you get hard onto the brakes into turn 1. You want to carry a lot of speed through to turn 2, and it looks like that Audi's starting to pull away just a bit, but then all of a sudden Casey O'Brien gets that great run off of turn 3, looking down that inside, down that big long straightaway, coming into turn 3, gets hard under braking, but you know, Brian not giving it up at all. Brian Sohn still battling out, trying to fight it off, but here they go side by side into turns 4 and 5. This is definitely not where you want to be side by side in turns 5. And Casey really thinks the better of it and steps back into position and follows them. Oh, gets together and they tap. And Casey O'Brien spinning out. Oh, and gets collected again by somebody else coming onto that back straight. And it looks like Murphy Nichols. Oh, hard impact from Murphy Nichols into Casey O'Brien.
That front nose of Murphy Nichols hanging on for dear life, more than the front button of my shirt after Thanksgiving dinner. And yeah, it looks like Casey O'Brien maybe misjudged the braking here, and Sohn had to check up a little bit. Not exactly sure. We're going to see what goes on. And just didn't quite account for the speed that he would have in there. The Audi a little bit slower at the apex, and then Nichols comes around that corner, and that car is gonna be pretty much in a blind spot coming around that corner. So Nichols not really gonna have much time to react to it, and maybe had a spotter call that there was a car on the left and tried to keep it tight inside, but was not tight enough. We jump back to our race leader. This gap still sitting pretty steady at 4.25 seconds. So Horvath, either through traffic, through tire wear, or through other means, has not really been closing the gap as much in the past few laps. So we'll see if this continues to stay stationary, or if maybe he's able to get some runs going now, but he has no traffic between he and Blake Reynolds right now.
Yeah, we've got less than 10 minutes to go, so Blake Reynolds and Devin Hovarth is definitely pretty stale right now with 4-second gap. And then you got about a 10-second gap back to Ray Kingsbury in the 3rd spot. So your top of the board is really kind of spread out right now, because then you got another 2 seconds back to Cody Crossgrove in the 4th spot. As you see the first wingless wonder in the 4th spot back there, hanging on, doing a good job, repping that wingless wonder, as we just about had another commentator curse, Randall. That was very close coming into, what was that, 12?
At turn 12, got in there on that apex curve a little bit, and that's definitely one of the curves you need to avoid in any car. So he clips it a little bit, manages to keep it out of the wall, and it was a good eye on you earlier to see that damage on the left rear. Typically, if you see damage on the left rear, that is a result of running a bit wide on the exit of turn 13, so maybe that's where he picked up that damage. I still suspect that he sees the rear wing on the car, and we don't, with the way he's been driving it.
Very, very true. So as we're jumping back into that 7th spot right now, this is probably this is our closest battle in the top on the field right now. This is our closest battle for 7th and 6th. It looks like Paul Mikulacek in that 7th spot in that Soul Beamer, trying to close back in with Romain Rateau. But the rest of the field is definitely all spread out. But this is the one battle right now that is less than 1 second. This track, Randall, is definitely not for the faint at heart. And as you can see, like we were talking earlier, the top 13 positions have all gained multiple positions, and behind that are all guys that basically rage quit and jumped out a lot. So we'll have to see how this works out. But Paul really trying to close in on Romain. It's Randall, we've got here's flashing his lights, trying to give him a little bit of distraction, but we've got 8 minutes left on the clock. So you're half second behind Romain Rateau. What is your game plan, Randall?
You need to try to ignore that car in front of you. You want to stay behind him for the slipstream, but don't let him lull you into a mistake. If he makes a mistake, don't follow him. Make sure you're hitting your marks. And we see, jump back to Elias Roman, who's taken his fast repair, runs wide in the tower turn, and you see him have to gather it up, gets it back under control, and then comes through turn 11, looks all right there, but running a little bit wide. This track can definitely lull you to sleep a bit. You'd think a track like this would keep you on your toes the whole time, but if you get into a good rhythm, you start to not really see the wall so much. And then you just have to run a little wide, as we see Roman Rateau do that on entry. Runs a little bit wide there into turn 6. Possibly tags the wall just slightly. Gets a good run, runs all the way out, using all of the track. Even though the walls are really close, you still have to use every inch of track to go fast around here. And like I said, you get that rhythm. You can get a little complacent with the walls. You're like, yeah, I know where the grip's at. But if you run just a little too wide in some of these spots, you get that clag all over your tires. And next thing you know, you're on Mr. Toad's Wild Ride.
Yeah, no, I have to agree. I've been around here many a times and noticed that as well. So we're back in the 14th spot with Justin Nasir right now. Justin with an early mistake and getting spun out, but trying to do one of those recovery drives. And sitting right behind Marwan Mafta is your leader in the amateur class. So not a battle for their division, but it's definitely a battle for points, as the points are all the same across the board. And so you really, Marwan really trying to keep a gap between him and Brian in that 2nd spot. Oh man, there goes Tim spinning out, losing the whole front bumper on that thing. And we've talked about this turn multiple times, Randall. That turn can definitely bite you if you're not, lull you to sleep, like you said.
That transition between 10 and 11 is so hard to get right too. You never really have the wheel straight for braking for turn 11. So you have to trail brake the whole time, and it's so easy to carry too much brake, especially if you're running too much front bias. And then you just too much rear bias, and then you grab too much trail brake, and then before you know it, the rear end stepping out on you. The car never felt stable at any point through that process, so you never actually felt it going around until all of a sudden you're pointing the wrong way. Horvath now with the fastest lap with a 28.778, trying to reel in Reynolds, and that's a way faster lap than what Reynolds is running. So Horvath finding something here in the closing stages.
Yeah, that was a good over half second faster than Blake that last time, and 0.2 a little bit quicker there. So he's less than 3 seconds behind your leader, Blake Reynolds. But this might be a little, a few laps too late, as we've got less than 5 minutes still left to go. But it definitely does put Blake a little bit more on defense, possibly. He sees that Ferrari closing that gap little by little, and that gap has gone down from a 6-second gap early down to 2.5 seconds now. So Devin Hovar, definitely the fastest car on the track right now. As you see those sector times, those lap times right there in the last 3 laps, he has definitely closed that gap quite a bit. But in that sector times, look at that, 0.2 quicker, half a tenth quicker. So he's definitely, as we saw earlier too, the sectors 1 and 2 seem to be Devin's, bread and butter. But Randall, looks like Blake's a little bit quicker on that last sector. That might be really coming on to a last lap battle. That could definitely play to his advantage.
it's definitely going to play to his advantage when they come to take the white flag, because he'll be able to open up a bit more of a gap through this and have Horvath playing catch up in sector 1, and then really only have probably a good look in sector 2, unless Horvath is able to close it up. But I think right now, with the amount of time left in this race, if Horvath is going to catch him, it's going to be on the last lap, and Reynolds is really only going to have to defend once against him, if at all. So as long as Reynolds doesn't make a mistake, we're going to see him probably retain this lead. Roman Rateau still ahead of Paul Michaelajczyk, but now dealing with a lap down car of Jeff Johnson. We've seen Jeff Johnson jump out of the way of a lot of fights, and doesn't seem to be as yielding this time around, as now he's going to brake a little bit early and let Rateau go. But Rateau's still going to be on that out of the groove through turn 1 and going to lose some time. So I'm wondering what's going on here with Jeff Johnson. He's been very, very forgiving to cars for position, and now that he's a blue flag car, doesn't seem interested in getting out of the way.
Yeah, he's kind of choosing weird lines right now, and definitely, maybe he's just not realizing that this is a battle for your 6th and 7th spot, and just thought it was just a couple cars running. So he may move out of the way onto the next section here. But as we're jumping back with Justin Nasir in that 13th spot, trying to close in our Marwin Mofta, our amateur leader. We can jump up to Marwin right now, and it definitely pinpoint that Marwin started, like you said earlier, scratch to the field. He was dead last, and he's sitting in the 15 places up right now. So great drive right now from Marwin, but man, it looked like Justin really sent it coming into turn 3 and almost collected the back of Marwin there.
That Porsches definitely have a lot more apex speed than the Mustangs on a track like this. So Nasir needs to leave a little bit more space and try to get a run on the exit. It's easy to come right up to the bumper of the car ahead of you, but when you're faster on the apex, you're going to find yourself actually being slower if you're too close. So he needs to back off just a little bit, let a run establish itself, and then make the inside move and outbrake him into one of these big braking zones. Right now, Mofta is just holding on. He probably doesn't care too much if Nasir gets around him. He just wants him to do it cleanly. After having driven all the way up to 12th from last, I wouldn't be interested in having any contact.
Yeah, no, I totally agree with you there. As Brian Zabalski in that 2nd spot in the amateur division, but sitting P15 to the field right now, doing a great job himself as well. He's up 8 positions, so good job from Brian to get up there and hang on to that 2nd spot. And honestly, his car looks like it's pretty undamaged. It looks like, as I may curse him right now, as we're coming around for what's probably going to be the white flag lap. So our leaders should be on the white flag as we come down the straightaway this time by. Nope. Wow, they got by early. Oh, they're probably far ahead of that. Yep. So here comes Blake Reynolds. Yep, coming down the last sector right now, coming by the pit entry. This will be the white flag lap for, there it is, down to the front straightaway. Blake Reynolds leading him around, 120 point flat that time by, and Devin Hovar's about 128.9, so just a 10th quicker. Still a 2.5 second gap back to Devin, and it might be just a little too late, and there's not a chance to battle. But Ray Kingsbury still hanging on to that 3rd spot. Cody Crossgrove sitting in 4th, and then you've got Brandon Lambert in the 5th spot. He's been able to make a little bit of move, but not sure that he's going to have enough time to gain that 1 second advantage as we're coming towards the end of it. Flashing lights, trying to do any kind of distraction, but he is closing quite hard coming into turns 3 right here. Drops it down to about 8/10. But Randall, I think this might be just a little too late for Brandon to make any kind of move.
Oh, maybe not. We saw a little bit of contact with the wall there. That could be one of those netcode hits that didn't really happen. Could have been a real hit. We're not sure. He could have an opportunity if he gets close enough to apply some pressure, maybe force a mistake into turn 11 or coming out of turn 11 and have a free spot there. But he's close enough to be in contact. He's going to be wishing there was one more lap in this race. If I'm on Blake Reynolds' pit wall, though, when he came around to take that white flag, I'm saying, hey, buddy, they got the white flag out too early. That's actually 2 laps to go. Try not to let him think that it's the last lap. So he keeps trucking on, but we're going to see him cross the line and take the win in this 45-minute race. We saw Daniel Zippy in the chat saying that was his pick, and he was right. Devin Horvath not able to close that gap up. We're going to bring it home second. This battle right here is probably one of the better ones we have, but it's not really going to develop into much. And it looks like Nasir's still not able to get around Mafta yet. This is going to be the last big braking zone where he's going to be able to outbrake this Mustang. We see Tim Brokaw getting out of the way of Brian Zabelski there, getting out of the way of Anthony Flores, and now going to let Zabelski by as well. Brokaw really nursing that car home.
Yeah, Flores gets by Zabelski, though, because Zabelski was in second there, so not quite sure what happened there, but Flores, here comes the battle right here, as you see, coming into turn for that 14, doing the full send coming into turn 1. Your UPS man delivers into turn 1 there, Randall.
Yeah, he gets the move done. He was all the way alongside on the front straightaway there, as we see Elias Roman stopped on track. Oh, it looks like he maybe has finished his race. No, he's going to get rolling again. No, everybody has crossed the line. So this is all post-race shenanigans here on the straight between turns 2 and 3. We see a lot of cars with damage. Not a surprise. It's Belle Isle.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And surprisingly, it was pretty good run. So here's our finishing order. Your first place, your winner again is Blake Reynolds in the 66 car. Devin Hovarth finishing in the 2nd spot. Ray Kingsbury finishing in 3rd. Cody Crossgrove in 4th. Brandon Lambert finishing in the 5th spot. Romain Rateau finishing in 6th. Paul Mikulicek in the 7th spot. Steve Baker finishing in 8th, the 9th spot of Brian Sohn. And rounding out your top 10 is Murphy Nichols.
Ryan O'Connor, who we didn't really talk about too much, going to come home in P11. Marwan Mafta with the drive of a lifetime from 27th up to 12th and the amateur win. Marwan Mafta brings that home in 12th with Justin Nasir right behind him on a recovery run in 13th. Anthony Flores, who we saw take that move there in turn 1 on the white flag lap, comes home 14th in front of Brian Zabelski. Tim Brokaw, who definitely didn't have any cooling issues with his Mustang in the closing stages of the race, comes home 16th. Kevin Bogart going to be 17th. Jeff Johnson with some unpredictable behavior coming home in 18th. Elias Roman, who we saw get involved in an incident in lap 1, turn 3, coming home in 19th place. And Jason C. Lynn going to be rounding out your top 20.
And then in the 20th, these are all guys that probably did not finish. This is Joshua Succi in the 21st, Casey O'Brien in 22nd, Matt Kingsbury 23rd, Josh Schultz 24th, Alex Hillman 25th, John Ebersol 26th, and Kevin Fanning. Looks like he only ran a couple laps, so something must have happened to Kevin early, and he will finish in the 27th spot. So good battle for these guys out there today. Good running going on. We're just going to be waiting for some interviews here, but upcoming broadcast while we're waiting for the drivers to head in here. On Sunday, August 27th, we got the Formula Fords at Zandvoort, so that should be a real interesting race with those guys. And then right after that will be the Spec Fords at Navarra. And then XSLR on Sunday night at 8:10 p.m. Eastern, the VW Beetles at Daytona Rallycross. And if you like the SimCAR action here with the GT3s, next week these guys will be at Laguna Seca on Thursday at 9 p.m. Eastern. So it definitely is going to be fun watching these guys get around Laguna Seca, as looks like we are not going to have... Oh, there we go. So we'll bring in our winner right now and do our interview. So first up, we're going to bring in our pro winner, and running away and hiding from him, Blake Reynolds. Congratulations. This seems to be a pattern with you, but great run today, buddy.
Hey, thanks, man.
Looks like now in the heat race, it looked like you were kind of just sitting back waiting. Were you planning on wanting to stay on the front row on that invert and then just kind of run away from the main, or did you have any plans on that?
Unfortunately, I just did not feel like I had the pace tonight. This Porsche, I guess. Devin Horvath, he was lights out tonight. I mean, he deserved to win the sprint, and honestly, there was some crazy defending for the podium there, lap, I don't know, 7 to 12 or something. If that didn't happen, I think he easily would have beat me here tonight, because he ran down that gap like it was nothing over the next 15 minutes or so. It was crazy. I finished 7th in the sprint. I couldn't get by Kevin. fanning. That Mustang, just every straightaway where I was like, oh yes, I have a good exit, a Mustang horsepower. So you can't really compete with that in a Porsche. And then the Porsche, like I said, it just doesn't seem to perform very well at these bumpy tracks. We'll see come Sebring. I think it's our last race. So, yeah, I worked my ass off in the feature to keep that gap. Devin was hounding in on me, but the tires thankfully held up, and I had enough fuel, and I kept it out of the wall.
That was a great run again from you, Blake, and your points lead has opened up quite a bit. So while we got you in the booth here, do you want to give any shout outs or thanks to anybody?
Yeah, sure thing. Solpec Precision Racing, my beautiful paint scheme, done by Jeff Evans over at there. Ray Kingsbury, Kevin Bogarts for working on the setup. We're kind of a Porsche alliance, so that's good to work together. And then y'all for broadcasting, Too Fast Racing, Penguin RC, Simulation, and SimCAR. Everyone that puts us on and is able to attract, it looks like 26 cars tonight. That's great for race 7, I think it is. So awesome.
No, definitely. Congratulations, Blake, on another win, and we look forward to see you next week at Laguna Seca.
Oh, thank you.
And that was your winner in the Pro Division. Randall, do you have our winner in the Amateurs?
I absolutely do. I tracked him down. Marwan Mafta, tell us, after your little bit of a debacle in turn 1 in the sprint race, what was it like driving your way past 15 other cars to win the amateur race tonight?
The least I can say, that was epic. I did not think that was possible, to be honest. Halfway through, I looked up front and there was no other amateurs, and I was like, I need to slow down, keep it clean, just take that to the end, and happily managed to do that. So pretty excited to be up front again. It's been a while since I won any in the AM races.
So we saw in the closing stages of the race, Justin Nasir all over your rear bumper. What was it like feeling that pressure from a pro driver behind you?
I wasn't racing him. If he got any closer, to be honest, I would have let him by. I was going for my AM win. He's in pro, so I just tried to keep my distance. He didn't push, so it worked out.
Well, I gotta agree with you, bud. That was an absolutely epic drive out of you. Way to keep it out of trouble, keep that nose clean, and make some really good moves to get your way up the field into this win. Before we let you go celebrate, is there anybody you'd like to thank or shout out?
The league, everyone involved in organizing it, you guys for having the awesome broadcast, the team, Kevin, Fanning, and Tim, they help a lot in practice and setups, and everyone involved. Thank you guys.
Well, Marwan, now that you have a fresh taste for victory, hopefully we see you up here again soon, maybe even next week at Laguna Seca.
Awesome. See you guys. Thank you.
And that was your amateur winner, Marwan Mafta, with the drive of a lifetime.
No, absolutely. That was a great race, and honestly, it didn't turn out as much pain as we talked about earlier, Randall. So great race from these guys, and if you guys are looking for more GT3 action, we look forward to see you guys next Thursday with SimCAR, and we run at Laguna Seca. But for Adam Thompson in the production booth, Randall McGrew joining me in commentary, I'm Mike Braun. We are going to sign off for this week here from Detroit Belle Isle.
Turn 1 is going to be interesting. Let's see if everybody gets through it. Looks like there's a little bit of a bump there, but everybody's getting through it okay. Now into turn 2, turn 3. We're 3 wide right in front of them. Oh, we got cars everywhere.
Big trouble. Kingsbury, you need to work on closing this gap and then maybe play the patience game. Make sure your tires are nice and cool. Don't overuse them. And to stay there in a good position as we see a pass for the lead. Hutcherson making the big move into turn 1, young wall.
Like Kingsbury's trying to go around the out or the inside, but it turns into the outside, and there's contact. Marwan did not leave him any room.
Yeah,
oh no!
We get together.
Oh no!
Where he should be.
So what happened there, Mike? What did he do? Did he suck his tire off?
I'm gonna go mute now.
I see
the
a
myth.
Budweiser. Go ahead and hold it up.
Yes. There's
That was
our
the
Budweiser.
biggest clue.
Yes, right
Doing
there.
it for Dale.
Man, it's so many gimmicks, right? I feel like they're making it a lot more complicated than it needs to be. I mean, a lot of people, you get polarizing opinions on DRS.
I know you guys know exactly what I'm talking about here, but sometimes the effort, it's all about the boys. You know, like, hey, you
It
know,
is.
life sucks sometimes, and you need
Yes.
the boys.
iRacing kind of always has a tendency to kind of buff
Yes.
the new cars just a little bit. I'm not gonna go on record saying it's because they want people to spend money on their platform and buy all the new
Conspiracy
content.
confirmed.
But
Yes.
but